Welcome back to Two Keto Dudes. This is Carl Franklin from Connecticut in the United States. And in February 2016, I put myself on a ketogenic diet to take control of my metabolism. In just 2.5 months, I managed to reverse all my markers of type 2 diabetes with diet alone. As of now, I'm 80 pounds lighter with no signs of diabetes or heart disease.
Hi, I'm Richard Morris in Canberra, Australia. I've been on a ketogenic diet since April of 2014. When I started, I was very sick with complications from type 2 diabetes. Within 6 months of starting a ketogenic diet, all of my biomarkers of disease had disappeared. I've lost about 100 pounds. I've completely turned my health around.
And this show is a document of my progress through ketosis and Richard's experience thriving for years in ketosis.
Oh yeah, thriving.
Yeah, and hopefully that might help a few people who are curious about this kind of dietary hacking.
Yeah, we're not doctors. We don't want to give anyone any medical advice, but we are keen to share our own experiences. We're actually both software developers, so we're not afraid of a little technical detail, are we, Carl?
Nope-a-dope, man.
We have done some research into our own deranged metabolisms and the science behind them. We hope to share some of that research. Where possible, we intend to put links in the show notes to cite research supporting any claims that we make.
And you'll probably work out pretty quickly that we're both foodies.
Oh, yeah.
We love to cook and we love to eat.
Sure do.
We also like to fast.
Yeah, we like to not eat sometimes.
Yeah.
We also like to sometimes diverge from our script at the beginning of the show.
In every episode, we both share a keto recipe that cannot be ignored.
No, it cannot.
So let's start podcast number 103, Ivor Cummins on heart science.
Heard you say you're due for a little.
So, buddy, do we have any apologies or corrections from last week's show?
That was Zoe Rocks Part 2.
Part 2.
I think we did we were rubbish, but Zoe was awesome.
Zoe was great. Yeah. Exactly.
So, yeah, no corrections for that show.
So let's revisit what a ketogenic diet is.
A ketogenic diet is 0 sugar or starch. A minimum of carbohydrates that you get from green leafy veg, from eggs, from nuts. You really want to keep your carbohydrate under 20 grams per day.
Yeah.
And you want to get all of your energy from fat. Now, that fat could be fat on your body or fat on your plate.
Yep.
But when you first start a ketogenic diet, you're probably going to be eating a lot of high-fat food.
Yep.
But once you become fat-adapted, your body doesn't care where it gets the energy from. It could be quite happy getting it off the plate or off your body. And at that point, you're off to the races.
Yes. So, how was your week, man?
My week was interesting. I still have ketones out the wazoo. I'm not quite sure what a wazoo is, but I have ketones out of mine.
Must be an Aussie thing.
So I've lost, in the past month, it's now the end of January or beginning of February, and in the month of January, I lost 4.8 kilograms eating porchetta to satiety.
That's so cool.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
And my insulin at the same time was down 3 points. And the interesting thing is that a lot of other people on the forum have reported similar results when they did what I did, which was supplement a small amount of glycine every day.
Really?
And yeah, we've had people say that that they've only just started doing this, but what a difference. According to their Fitbit Alta heart rate monitor, they're getting significantly more REM deep sleep and less waking time. And for them, sleep has been an issue. So it's quite possible that the mechanism here is that glycine helps promote restful sleep, and maybe my problem was actually sleep. We don't really know what's doing this.
Yeah, maybe.
So, yeah, I was supplementing glycine to help contribute to my ability to make collagen to stabilize my jaw for a dental implant. And I was eating a lot of food with collagen in it, like pork belly and chicken skin. But the interesting thing is that when I mentioned this on the podcast, listeners have been on the ketogenic forum saying, I tried the same thing and it's happened to me. And, there are some people saying, I don't feel bad about balancing all the steak I ate with pork cracklings anymore.
Yeah, right. That's a very interesting finding. And, it's amazing having a community like this that can, where you can do these, ad hoc kind of self-studies and see what happens.
Yeah, there's no rigor behind it, really.
No.
Until somebody can provide a mechanism. What I personally plan to do is at the end of about another 10 weeks, they're going to do what's called a torque test on the implant, which is where they basically see if it's bonded to the bone, and the bone of my jaw. And once I've passed that, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to clamp. I'm going to basically drop glycine completely and try and go for a high methionine, a high muscle meat diet. Get rid of all of the connective tissue, skin in my diet for a couple of weeks, and see if I can wrench the my biomarkers in the other direction, and then slowly increase the amount of collagen in my diet and or glycine supplementation to see if I can work out what the least effective dose is for me. But it's certainly, I have never seen ketones as high as I'm getting currently in the 4 years I've been in ketosis. Yeah.
Well, you know what's interesting is that we still don't know that you're making more ketones or using less ketones.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, all it shows you really is that you're in ketosis, but it could be that your body is using less, so there's more in the blood.
Well, we do know that insulin inhibits the process of making ketones.
Of making ketones?
That's right. So insulin diverts the energy that would otherwise go into making ketones into making fat. So, and in fact, for people who are diabetic, that inhibition that causes that to happen is some 60-fold greater. So this is one of the reasons I believe why type 2 diabetics generally have lower levels of ketosis, because you look at Tim Noakes, he has type 2 diabetes like I have.
Yeah.
He's quite slim. I mean, I'm not slim, but I'm athletic, and he and I both produce ketones in a similar range between 0.2 and 0.8 most days. And the only time that he ever gets ketones up above 1.5 is when he fasts for a day or so and then does a marathon. And for me, the only time it really happens is when I fast for 2 or 3 days and then do like a 100K bike ride. So it could well be that for people like us who have high fasting insulin, that puts a floor under the amount of ketones that we're going to make, and we really need to be stressing our body big time to produce a lot of ketones. Not that that's ever been a goal or an outcome of mine, but it's an interesting biomarker to measure. So
you mentioned that glycine helps you sleep. Are you actually getting more sleep now?
I'm not noticing it, and I have one of these Garmin trackers on my wrist all the time, and it's not noticing that I'm getting better sleep. So, but there have been people with Fitbits who have seen a significant increase in their sleep.
Interesting.
My sleep, my diurnal patterns, my circadian rhythms are horrible. They're
still bad.
And they always have been. And it's going to get probably better this year because I'm going to university and most of my lectures start at 9 o'clock in the morning. And normally at 9 o'clock in the morning, I'm just starting to get ready to go to sleep. So it's going to be interesting. This year is going to put me into a little bit of a sleep straitjacket. So
very cool.
We'll see how long that lasts. So how was your week, Carl?
My week was great, man. I think I've hit a breakthrough in that I don't have any resistance or struggle just jumping right into a fast.
Yeah.
I feel like I have now the power to fast at will without any anxiety, without any hunger, without any feeling bad. Like, I don't know. It's just like a switch has been flipped. And I never felt bad. Like when I fasted, I haven't felt bad, but you know, you do have that first day is kind of hard.
Yeah, the first day is a bit rough.
Yeah, it's a bit rough, but not anymore. And I don't know if it's a physiological thing or a psychological thing, but after doing it more often, I just feel like I've hit a new level of adeptness at fasting.
Yeah.
So
that's what Megan calls exercising your fasting muscle.
Yeah, right. I actually think Jimmy came up with that one, but
okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I feel like giving something away.
Yeah, some loot. What do we got? Don't tell me we're going to give away another mug.
Yeah, of course we're going to give away another coffee mug.
Without mugs on it.
Right, exactly. It says Keep Calm and Keto on. It's got our faces on it. And we give one away every show to one lucky member of the Two Keto Dudes fan club. And just to join the fan club, you go to fanclub.2keto.com and answer a few questions. And your name and email address goes into a pool, and we pick somebody at random every show and send them a mug.
Nice.
So today's winner is James Tallman.
Well done, James. Congratulations.
Well done, James. Congratulations.
Yes, and if you don't want to wait to win a mug, you can always buy one at gear.2keto.com or pick up a T-shirt or a onesie or I'm sure there's all sorts of things with our faces on them.
That's right. More things than we care to admit. And that brings us to a very special segment of our show called...
That everybody loves.
Short and sweet.
Mail! So I've got a mail. This one's from the Ketogenic Forum, and this is from Chris, who's a regular on the Ketogenic Forum, and he says, I started cutting carbs in October of 2016. Within 3 weeks, I was able to stop all of my type 2 diabetic meds and most of my blood pressure meds. Now, 2017 is in the books. I pulled the data from my pharmacy to see the cost savings from 1 year of taking far fewer prescription medications. So in 2016, his total cost of prescription medications was $15,946.90. His total cost of prescription medications in 2017 was $1,852.04.
That is
so he's gone from
incredible.
$16,000 a year in prescription meds to just under $2,000.
And this is costing the UK taxpayer.
Yes, that's right.
So he's basically taking a cost off of the burden of the state.
That's right.
That's incredible.
It is. Imagine if all type 2... This is why Dr. David Unwin is working so hard in the UK to help type 2 diabetics, because up until recently, we all thought that type 2 diabetes was a progressive disease, that it wasn't reversible, but we're showing here that not only is it reversible, but the cost to the taxpayer significantly drops. And when you think, there are probably, I'm just guessing here, maybe 1 million UK diabetics who are all probably billing the taxpayer $16,000 a year.
Yeah.
Who could go to $2,000 a year. Now, Chris reckons that in 2018 he'll be cutting that in roughly in half again. So it'll go down to $1,000 a year. And it's probably only his residual blood pressure meds. He may even go off all of those as well. So, this is remarkable.
It really shows that it's just as much of a cost-saving issue as it is a health issue, a life-saving issue.
Well, the two really should be synonymous, because when you think about it, people who are diabetic, who are out on the road and badly diabetic and have uncontrolled glucose are at risk of going into sudden diabetic comas and taking out other road users. These are all costs that we need to add. It's not just the physical costs to the individual of their medication and losing limbs and losing eyesight, but the entire society is damaged by people being sick. And so even if you don't live in a society that has socialized medicine, if you have health insurance, your health insurance premiums go up when the health insurance company has to pay more for medications. And so even if you don't live in a society that has socialized medicine, your costs are shared if you're in the health system using private insurance. And if you're not in the health system, I feel sorry, that you have real troubles. So, it's
amazing.
Remarkable. What a difference. A small intervention like, hey, I just don't eat sugar or starch.
Right.
It's incredible, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. That's
my mouth. So what do you got there?
Well, this one is an iTunes, otherwise known as Apple Podcast review.
Mm-hmm. And that's what they're calling it this week.
All right. So this is from April of 2017.
Okay.
And it says, I'm really addicted to these podcasts. I started keto January 1, 2017, because I couldn't get a hold on the creeping weight gain of middle age that many females experience. Mm. I had a hysterectomy 1 year earlier, and the weight just seemed to creep on and on. Mm-hmm. My doctor put me on an Atkins diet, and I started educating myself. I found keto and started listening to the two dudes and realized that this diet was really what my body needed. I'm losing my weight slowly, but I feel better than I ever have, and I have more energy, and I'm toning up and losing inches, and most of all, my clothes are fitting better than ever.
Wow.
I've only lost 8 pounds up to this point, but I feel so good, I really don't care.
Yeah.
I love going through my day, never feeling like I'm starving. I get so much more done, and I like not being exhausted at 1 p.m. in the afternoon. This is the most attention I've ever paid to my nutrition, and I find the podcast informative as well as inspiring. Thanks, dudes, for helping me. Well done.
Yeah, well done. Isn't it remarkable that, people get into diets for weight loss, but in the case of a ketogenic diet, you just start feeling so good so quickly.
Yeah.
That becomes the reason why you're doing it. The weight loss is really a minor thing compared to getting control over your glucose swings and roller coasters, getting off the glucose roller coaster.
And you don't really realize it until you've gone through it, and you wake up one day and you feel so good, and you're like, oh, so this is what feeling alive, is like. Yeah. I had a call from a mentor of mine. Mm-hmm. He's a guy who, and I won't tell you who he is, but he was one of my first bosses in the software business. Mm. And, like many people pushing 70, he's, his gut's growing, and, he's trying to get a hold of it. And he saw the things that I posted on Facebook, et cetera. Right. And, was pretty impressed. But he said, I'm not into the cult of keto. And I said, well, that's okay. It does kind of seem like it. No, of course it isn't. It's not that organized, really. Yeah. It's haphazard, and he's right that there's so much BS out there if you just start Googling things, and so finding the right resources is important. But I thought about that. Why are people so zealous about the ketogenic diet? And the word sounds like a product, keto.
Does a bit, yeah.
Yeah, it sounds kind of product-y and system-y, and just follow these instructions. And really, the instructions are pretty simple. But anyway, he's like, I just want to lose 30 pounds, 40 pounds, and I don't want to get into the science and have to all this stuff, and I'm not gonna drink the Kool-Aid. Metaphorically speaking.
Don't drink the Kool-Aid. Eat bacon and eggs. It's not all about Kool-Aid.
Yeah. So anyway, so I said, but you say that now, but once you start feeling so good, and you don't consider starchy and sugary things food anymore, which you won't, and I know you can't understand that now, but you're just not, you're going to want to do this all the time. Yeah. You're going to want to be in that state 24/7. And he didn't believe me. He goes, okay, well, we'll see. I just want to lose some weight.
Yeah. Come for the weight loss, stay for the mental clarity.
Yeah, and everything else. Stay for all the other non-scale victories. All right, well, we have an interview here with none other than Mr. Ivor Cummins, who we've had on the show several times. He and Jeff Gerber have teamed up to write a book. And it's just coming out here very shortly. And we haven't talked to Ivor in a while about, heart science and some other issues. So, Ivor Cummins, welcome back to Two Keto Dudes.
Hey, Carl, Richard, great to be here again.
Yeah, g'day, Ivor.
Great to talk to you. It's been a while. You've been up to a few things, I hear.
Yeah, I've been relatively busy, the last few months. So we had a rush to get the book finished completely for the print run, which is releasing on the 26th of February coming in the US.
Nice.
What's the book all about?
The book is called Eat Rich, Live Long, and slightly ambiguous title there, intentionally. So obviously the Eat Rich means rich, nutrient-dense, ancestral foods, low carb, as opposed to, foods that are expensive. That's absolutely not the case. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's about longevity, avoiding cardiovascular disease and other modern chronic diseases. And it pretty much gives you all you need to know largely about having a longer, healthier life and more productive life, and avoiding the big diseases. Without going into really nerdy, crazy detail,
Yeah. So your co-author is Dr. Jeffrey Gerber, Denver's diet doctor.
Yeah, Jeff's been 15 years plus on low carb and treating cardiovascular disease and all the other problems, obesity, highly successfully with low carb diets and keto diets as required. And he always wanted to write a book. So when he found me a few years ago, we had a collaboration that's run now for 4 or 5 years. And we teamed up on this one. So it's been really great because he has all the clinical experience.
Sure.
And pretty much every chapter, there's a patient story to illustrate that chapter. So a lot of patient stories, some patient data that permission was given, HbA1cs collapsing over a few weeks, which you're very familiar with.
Sure am, yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's been really good. I was going to release a book around 2 years ago, but it would have been written a little too complex and a little like blog posts. But we had the benefit since then of a professional editor, Tom Miller, out in New York with Carol Mann Agencies. And the two editors with the Victory Bell publisher have been fantastic too. So absolute bloodhounds, every reference citation, everything that was in any way ambiguous in the narrative, questioned, challenged, tweaked. So I'm really, really happy.
Tightened up.
Yeah. So
lovely.
So it's really aimed at more ordinary people rather than low carb enthusiasts who already have a lot of awareness. We're hoping to reach with low carb science out to a broader audience, people who can benefit, who are not sure about lower carb means higher fat. Is fat not bad for your heart? People who are not sure, this will set them straight, we believe.
Lovely, yeah.
Those are the people we want to reach as well. The ones that already get it, you're preaching to the choir at a certain point.
Exactly. They're the support network rather than, the customer, if you will. Yeah.
Yeah. We're also going for the long game. Our goal is to try and teach people to become experts in their own communities and to be the go-to person and to share the information, to dumb it down for their people. And so things like this book is going to be wonderful for our listeners to share with people to teach them the basics. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, our listeners probably know a lot of the stuff themselves, but they're lacking the resources and tools. So this book will be awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Richard. Yeah.
What's been on your mind? What's annoying you lately, Ivor?
Oh, what's annoying me lately? Well, bar all the rush to get all that done. There's a few things floating. I get pummeled every time there's a new study which seems to conflict with what we say. What was the latest one? Oh, there was a rat study. I think it was rat, not mouse. And they said that there was accelerated growth of tumors in these tumor-prone rats when they fed them a keto high-fat diet. So, that's worrying, right? And it's ironic because we know that all the evidence points towards keto being anti-cancer or preventative, if anything, or helpful.
Sure.
And here we have this study. So you have to suspect that there's something wrong with the study. Now, I don't like being biased. I looked at it with an open mind, the full paper.
Yep.
And it only took around 30 to 60 seconds to find out what was wrong. Essentially, the rat's diet was 11% corn oil, right? Omega-6 corn oil, which
of course.
We know the question marks around omega-6 industrial oils and carcinogenesis.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the protein was isolated casein, 11% of refined casein. Yeah, we know there's a lot of question marks around that as well. And then there's lard and butter, and maltodextrin and other stuff. So basically a highly processed, high omega-6 corn oil, casein laboratory diet. And they didn't give the control diet for the other rats, but they said it was normal, healthy rat chow. So, it's a wash, right? It's complete junk.
Yeah.
But the media, of course, and I get all the emails then from people, a bit concerned. And we're going to have to keep doing that. Every time one of these junk studies comes up, we just have to quickly review it, point out the problems, and move on, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. We had the same problem with Professor Mouse in Australia, Sof Andrikopoulos. And so the genesis of that is actually quite interesting. It all came around because of climate change. So what actually happened was that we had a change of government. We went from a socialist-leaning government to a conservative-leaning government. And of course, they decided climate change was all bunk and that the CSIRO, which is the organisation that is responsible for, it's the peak science body in Australia, they would henceforward only do research on subjects that could produce a benefit, a financial benefit. And so there was a scurrying around in the CSIRO to find any studies that they could find that showed a scientific benefit that would be a cash benefit to the bottom line of the government. We have socialised medicine here in Australia, and they found this study, Brinkworth study, which is into paleo diets and how paleo diets would potentially decrease the cost of diabetic medication. And the Australian government spends $186 million a year on diabetic medication. So that would appear to be perfect. As far as the peak body in science, the CSIRO goes, this is the ideal study that shows that their benefit and why they should be continued to be funded.
Yeah.
And so this study came out, and this guy, Sof Andrikopoulos, was one of the reviewers of this study. And within about 4 months of this study hitting, there was this paleo mouse study where he, in theory, fed mice a Paleolithic diet. They were fed basically cacao butter and casein and sucrose. This is the Paleolithic white chocolate, essentially. And it was just a rat bag study, but it was literally made to cast aspersions on this diet study that had been done by the CSIRO. Well, the CSIRO eventually wrote a book about this thing, and it's become a bestseller in Australia. And the CSIRO diet, which is a lower carb Paleolithic style diet, has become pretty much it's going the same way as Banting went in South Africa. So it's wonderful, a wonderful outcome. But
wow,
the whole Sof Andrikopoulos Professor Mouse thing was just incredible.
It was farcical. But Richard, I didn't actually have all the backstory. I knew the guy. I saw the articles. I read the study. It was 9 mice, I think, 5 with one thing forward, another. It was a complete joke. But I didn't know the backstory, and the CSIRO was so involved, and I didn't know the outcome that now there's this popularization. So that's a great outcome. But you'd wonder as well what drove him. I mean, was he personally had some vendetta? I mean, what would drive someone to rush off and do a BS mouse study to counter a reasonably good one? Like
Cold,
hard cash, Ivor.
Possibly. Well, it could be cognitive dissonance as well. I mean, maybe he just believes that the low-fat, plant-based approach is the logical way that everything should work, and any studies that don't support that obviously must be wrong, right? And he has to rush out, and that's my assumption. We should have him on.
We learned a few things from Zoe Harcombe in the last couple of weeks about how study data is manipulated, and one of them is they when they're comparing things, especially in epidemiological studies, they give a relative risk versus an absolute risk. And a relative risk could be, 78% increase in cancer tumors or whatever. But when you look at the actual risk, it might go from 0.14 to 0.2. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And this is a huge, huge problem. And it's the same with the medications. The relative, you're going to have a 40% reduction in heart disease risk, but it's in a cohort of people where the non-drug had 0.9% and the drug people had 0.5%. It really doesn't mean much at all, and there's potential side effects. So if you look at the big picture, you say, hold on a minute, but the docs here, 40%, wow, that's nearly halving heart disease.
Right.
Fantastic.
Right.
Yeah, 40% of point something doesn't make much. And the other thing was looking at all-cause mortality as well. If you have even a 100% relative risk in developing a tumor, but your all-cause mortality goes down absolutely by 50%. What does that tell you?
Exactly. Yeah. If you focus, that's another great trick. Just focus on the disease that the drug affects slightly beneficially and put the spotlight on that. And if more people actually end up dying on the drug slightly because of other problems, just don't really go there. Just don't discuss it. Just ignore it. There was a really fun one. The Veterans Administration was a polyunsaturated versus saturated fat study back in the 60s. And it was reasonably well controlled. And they showed a genuine reduction in heart events, which in fairness, For people who are eating a standard American diet, swapping saturated for polyunsaturated may give a shortish term reduction in events due to blood clotting and other changes. However, it did not reduce cardiovascular mortality or all-cause. It was a wash. Mm-hmm. And when they investigated a year later, the team published a paper and said, well, actually, the reason the cardiovascular events went down quite a bit, but the mortality didn't change, was there was an increase in cancer deaths, statistically significant.
Oh, ouch.
Yes, ouch. And they mused at this and they did more analysis and they said, yes, this is kind of worrying and we're not really sure what's going on here. And that was kind of the way the paper ended, where, well, yeah, okay. But after that, people stayed well clear. People didn't want to go near the polyunsaturated cancer question because they didn't want that. They want a simple message. Heart healthy polys. Don't be looking at all cause. Don't be looking at cancer.
Right.
Hey,
right.
Come away from there. Look at this. We have reduced heart attack. And even when they reduced the rate of heart attacks, one thing that's never clear, they have, say, 20% lower heart attacks in 2 years. But over a long period, they don't know. It can reverse. And the other thing is how long the heart attacks were not magically prevented forever. So the guys who did not have the heart attacks might have not had them for 6 months more.
Right.
So they're not even mortality, and it's only deferring them a bit. It's incredible. It's incredible stuff.
Hey, Ivor, there's a great resource that I discovered recently, and I didn't know it was there, but it's been around since the year 2000. It's put up by the U.S. government called clinicaltrials.gov. Yeah. Have you seen this website?
Yes, and I think they're now trying to have it that you have to advertise your trial and your endpoint you're measuring and your statistical stuff in advance.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Whether you get results or not, so we actually get to see those studies that were performed. Yeah.
Oh, that's another story, actually. But I'm talking about if you, as a researcher, want to look up trials that have been done on a particular subject, it's a really great resource to be able to browse and find things.
Yeah, it is, and it's very good when one isn't finally published or anything, you can still see the background and what's going on. I don't think they have hot links to the study papers, but they give you all the details and you can go and dig it out. Yeah, it's pretty good. There's another one where they're trying to, I think it's UK and Europe based. They're trying to do a similar thing called all trials, and that is that all trials will get published. You do not have a choice not to publish. You must share the data, even if it went against you. Now, that one is being blocked by industry, and that's an ongoing fight. They do not want all trials to be published.
Of course they don't.
Obviously.
Yeah.
But if it's all coming from the public purse to fund these trials, then how can they refuse? And unless they're entirely funding the science.
Unless they're completely corrupt. But that would never happen.
No.
It doesn't happen ever.
I mean, it's not like these guys are in it for the profit. This is a philanthropy effort.
Of course. It's all about saving lives.
Yes.
Their lives.
Yeah.
Their lives.
The luxury of their lives.
Indeed. So, speaking of saving their lives, something came up in the news recently, and I thought I should talk to Ivor about this. And this is related to the US president. Now, something you told us at a previous episode was that all astronauts and presidents have a calcium score. And we all know that President Trump has recently had his naval medical check that the presidents have to have every year.
They look in his navel?
They've announced... Yeah, I certainly hope not.
Did they find any flaw?
So, you would expect so. In fact, there was actually an Australian scientist, a well-known public scientist called Karl Krusneski, who won an Ig Nobel Prize for writing a paper on the accretion of belly button fluff.
Awesome.
But you've got me going down a
Sorry
rabbit hole.
about that, man.
So President Trump had a calcium score done, because apparently all presidents get this done by routine, and his calcium score was 133. And his calcium score in 2009, the last one that he had done, was 33. And so that shows a progression in his calcium score. And a couple of people have made comments about that relating to his risk of cardiovascular disease and heart attacks. But I found it interesting that it's a teachable moment that calcium scores are finally coming into the public discourse.
Yeah, and it also shows how stressful the presidency is. I mean, we see people who go into the U.S. presidency, they look young before they go in, and after they come out, they look like they've aged 25 years. And I imagine that, no matter who you are as a president, you're probably going to develop some metabolic syndrome based on stress and cortisol level.
Yeah, I'd agree. That it's a massively stressful job. There's no doubt about it. Again, it depends on the person. I mean, maybe Trump handles stress very well and is not as bothered. Maybe Obama would agonize and think over every point and really wind himself up. I mean, it'll vary, but yeah, it's a big deal. The score actually, interestingly, a lot of people sent me that, and going from the 30s to 130 over whatever it was 9 or 10 years, it's only 6 or 7% per year annualized.
Right.
And the data, it's not a slam dunk, but the data would suggest that if you're over 10 or 15% per year, you've got a very high risk and you're approaching an event. And if you're below 10% a year, you have relatively stable disease and less likely to have an event.
Right.
He's the 50th percentile for his age, so he's kind of average. And his increase per year is 7%. We don't have his density and volume numbers, because someone whose density is increasing more so than the volume of the plaque is at relatively lesser risk also. They give his Agatston score, which is a combination of density and volume. If you could see both, you'd have a better idea. But all in all, for a guy who eats very badly and is under stress and he's overweight, 7% a year you could perceive as reasonably stable. It's all relative. But it is great, as you say, Richard, that it's getting out there, because everyone's talking about this calcium score he got, and most Americans and most doctors won't even have been sure what that was.
That's true, yeah.
Right.
Clearly, it's a presidential test that's really important.
Yeah,
right.
It is. So the other thing is that George W. Bush had a calcium score of 24 that was stable through the entire presidency. So he had 8 tests all at 24.
Wow.
So he wasn't growing, that's quite unusual.
Well, George Bush, he was jogging a lot. He had stopped drinking. I think he was reasonably trying to eat healthy, and he wasn't that overweight. I think he was regularly jogging. So he might have been reasonably healthy. And like you say, he might not have felt the stress so much by his personality. He might not have been as wound up. But that's a great result. I mean, to stay stable for many, many years is an excellent result. It's as good as a zero.
Right.
It's as good as a zero, largely.
Speaking of which, Obama, who was a smoker, had a 0 through his entire presidency. So he really was no drama Obama.
Whoa.
And so that was interesting as well.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah. So it just goes to show you that a lot of this is genetic. I mean, you roll the dice, but the number of numbers on your dice is set by your genes. So. Well,
yeah, the way I like to look at it is your susceptibility is set by your genes mostly. So, so essentially, if you have bad genes, it means you are very prone to getting heart disease in the wrong environment. And some other guy with good genes can eat the crap and live in the bad environment and be okay. So even when it's genetic, it's still the environment that matters. That's what takes you down. Yeah. And it endlessly fascinates people. This guy drank Coca-Cola and he eats junk food and he's got a 0 at 58. And then you get another guy who was fitness freak, and at 52 he comes in with a high score and he gets a bypass. Yeah. It is genetics, but but if they both had a perfect diet and the right environment, they'd both be okay.
I'm not sold on the whole genetic thing. I think that's a sort of catch-all category when we don't know the answer.
There is that. That does annoy me about it, Carol. It's a cop-out. Because,
it is a cop-out.
Yeah, a lot of people say, oh, it's genetics, and then you throw your hands up. Yeah, but the people with the worst genetic exposure, if they do the right thing, they can be as safe as an average guy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's a huge prize. Imagine having a genetic shotgun loaded and you discover the way to basically take the firing pins out. I mean, it's even better than just staying healthy for an average person. You've dodged the bullet. But if you say it's just genetics, it's like, well, you can't do anything. And that's such a failure.
When somebody says that, I like to say, what genes?
Yeah, now you're talking.
What do they do? How they express themselves? Yeah.
That'll get a lot of
In some cases, it will, but in some cases, they're going to have an answer for you because in some cases, we actually know which genes cause which proteins to be made and what they cause. So
yeah, you're absolutely right.
You're going to get caught out one day.
I'm happy to be proven wrong. I just think that, that it is a cop-out most of the time.
Well, yeah, there's ApoE4 genetic type. I am one of those.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and it's 17% of the population. My wife is also ApoE4. And there's around a 1.3x risk of heart disease higher, which is not huge on average from some big studies. But there's a 3x to 5 or 6x risk for Alzheimer's, particularly in women. I think it's 5 or 6 or 7 times. So a massive exposure to Alzheimer's. So ApoE4 are the oldest ancestral allele, the oldest genotype, and they're the most exposed to the modern environment that causes these diseases. So, but if you're ApoE4 and you go low carb, no refined carb, no sugar, healthy high fat diet, the oldest human diet, you won't get Alzheimer's, you won't get heart disease.
Yeah.
So even ApoE4, which is more and more getting press, it all depends on what you do in your environment. There was one study that showed ApoE4 people, if they got metabolic syndrome, insulin resistance syndrome, they were around 4 times higher risk of heart disease. But if they did not have metabolic syndrome and avoided getting that, they were 4 times less heart disease risk than the other guys. So the paper said ApoE4 risk is totally and utterly dependent on whether you become insulin resistant. If you don't, ApoE4 have fantastic long lives.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So genetics, shemetics.
So I'm a 3-3. So I'm right down the middle of. I have the average of all. But I know that people who have an E4 also sometimes when they do these genetic assays, they get told that they're particularly susceptible to saturated fats. Is that something that you have an opinion on? Yes.
Now, the problem with this one is it's very hard to get actual data because no one has really done a lot of studies on E4 so that we'd have the data. But there's a lot on William Davis's, Track Your Plaque, Wheat Belly Davis, the cardiologist. He has a Curality site, curality.com. It's a subscription. And a lot of guys on there are obsessed with heart disease and have advanced heart disease, some of them, and they fix themselves with low carb and some with medications. But long story short, there's a lot of really smart E4s on there. And they discuss all of this. And it would appear from all I can find that an E4 eating a low carb, high saturated fat diet who is healthy will be fine. That's my read on it. However, it does appear that an E4 who has become diabetic through vegetable oil and sugar and the other stuff. Once they've become diabetic, they can have a sensitivity to excessive animal proteins or fats. And it can raise their insulin, trigger small dense LDL. And the way I look at it is the E4 is a fantastic machine. It's a great genotype. Okay. But if the machine gets damaged, a lot of the rules are off.
It's kind of like my smartphone.
Right.
There you are.
It's wonderful. But if you drop it, your life is screwed for a while.
Well, yeah, and you may have to handle it more gingerly after you've dropped it, because if you flex it or abuse it, it might just switch off. So I think the E4, it would appear that the safe way for E4s, if they have got, they go really high responder LDL or small dense LDL, or they react with higher insulin to a lot of animal products, if they go the real, crazy keto, eating loads of meat. Well, the simple thing is, switch to fish and avocado. Just back off onto more benign, The reason I hate discussing this is because you're admitting there is a case where animal products, you may have a sensitivity, but that is in no way to validate in any way the absolute junk science of the last 50 years on animal products.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
The irony is, it's people damaged by vegetable oil, sugars, and refined carb that lose maybe their ability to safely metabolize large amounts of animal fats. So even for those guys, it wasn't the animal fats that caused the problem.
No.
It was the damn sugar that damaged them and caused them to not be able to eat the ancestral food. So, it's ironic, isn't it?
Yes, it certainly is.
I was just talking to someone about their experiences with the Atkins diet in the early 2000s. And this person went on it and lost some significant weight, 40, 50 pounds or something, but didn't know enough about protein, didn't know enough about salt, like a lot of us back then, and got the nausea and the overeating protein and the not having enough salt and electrolytes, because let's face it, salt is bad. Everybody knows that, right? And so went off it and gained all the weight back, and then said, "Oh, that Atkins diet was terrible."
There's a lot of that. It's unfortunate that it's not complete rocket science, but if you're missing pieces of information, it can seem like it, especially the big ones you mentioned. You couldn't stress it enough. Magnesium, potassium, and sodium, and chloride. Recent papers are showing that the chloride in salt is very important for reactions, not just the sodium.
Sure.
So all of these things are, as Ted Naiman, Dr. Naiman says, the human body is the most enormous chemistry set in the universe. And it requires, for optimal health, a dizzying array of these components. But the preventative medical system hardly talks about any of these crucial components and salts and electrolytes. They just talk in the most banal terms about plant-based diets and low fat.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But that's where but I think the low carb revolution now is in full swing. The keto is gaining ground also as a specialized low carb. Diet Doctor has doubled size, I think, again in the last 12 months, Andrea Seinfeld.
Wonderful.
So now I think the information is going to get out to the pockets of people like you described, Carl, more and more, and they won't fail because they'll get good information.
I certainly hope so. And I think you're right. I think that people are getting the salt and the keto flu and the, don't overeat protein message. And but it is very hard when you've been told all your life that, if you eat bacon, you're going to die, heart attack on a plate, all those stupid colloquialisms. Hey, I saw a movie yesterday that you probably know about and you might like, but I didn't know it existed until yesterday. It's called Magic Pill. Oh. Have you seen it?
No, and the only reason it looks great, it's got great guys in it. The only reason I haven't seen it, Carl, is I went a couple of times to try and see it, but it appeared it was only releasing in theatres, possibly in Australia, and I couldn't access a copy a few months ago. Maybe is it out now on general?
Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime in the States. I think it's on Vimeo as well.
Oh, cool.
But I'm not sure about UK. I'm not sure about Australia. You tried to find it in Australia, right, Richard?
Yeah, so I got access to it on Amazon, but not on Prime. See, with Prime, you get to be able to watch the stuff as part of your Prime subscription. Okay. So did you have to pay extra for it?
Yes, I did have to rent it or buy it, and I bought it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's out in Australia and on Amazon as well. So it's well worth watching.
Excellent. Well, I saw the trailer for it, and I can't remember. This is probably 6 months ago, and a lot of great guys were in it. I mean, was Jason in it? Jason Fong?
Jason's in it. Tim Noakes, Nina Teicholz.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It had all the right guys in it. So I said the content is going to have to be pretty damn good. It must be, unless they've got counterpoints with a bunch of other plant-based kind of people or something. I don't know.
No, they don't. But they did have a vegan who told why she went to a more ketogenic diet. And the reason is she went vegan for ethical reasons. She, didn't like what we did to animals. So she decided to plant her own garden and raise her own food, much like Richard did, right? But you weren't vegan.
Yep.
But you decided, I'm going to raise my own food because I want to know exactly what's in. So got all the plants and everything's fine. Now, what do we feed the plants? Well, all of the fertilizer that's natural is made from bone meal and blood meal She's like, I can't get away from killing animals, and I just want to eat veggies. So she did some research into soil, and soil is basically decayed plants and decayed animals. And that's what nurtures and nourishes. So then she sort of got the whole, big picture.
Cycle of life.
Yeah, that it isn't about animals, but the way that animals are treated in commercial stockyards and feedlots and that kind of thing. And if you treat them, as if they're part of the earth and let them do what they naturally do, then, you're just participating in the cycle of life, as Richard says. So, but this was the first movie of its kind that I never had to say, that's crap. I couldn't disagree with anything.
Wow.
Have you seen, Carl, the That Sugar movie?
I have.
Which was the last Australian one. Now, that one included David Avocado Wolfe, I think the guy's name is.
Who's that?
He's the guy who invented the magic bullet. And he has some really way out there thoughts about nutrition.
Okay.
And so this movie is wonderful. It had lots of great people, Tim Noakes, and really good people.
Yeah.
And then it had a few weirdos because, these sort of movies sometimes sweep up a few of the people on the far outskirts of, the anti-vaxxers and the anti-fluoriders. And so, but it sounds like the magic pill was able to keep away from that side of things, which is good.
Yeah, they did. As far as I know.
You'd recognize them when they pop up. Like you say, Vax or Fluoride. And again, not making any judgment on those issues.
Yeah.
But when Vax or Fluoride or even, to be quite honest, lighting and LED lighting and even wireless, who knows what the full truth is on any of those things. But when they pop up, you're into a different kind of a thing. And I certainly stick to, what we know, what we've researched, and the
based
more
on science.
Out there areas. I mean, sure, maybe in 10 or 20 years, we will find out that the LED light spectrums do cause significant issues. Anything's possible. But right now, I can't find papers and data on it. Doesn't mean it's not true. But if there's no data, what's the point of me talking about it?
Right.
So it's great to see a movie that sticks to the core, like Nina, like Noakes sticks to the core, Jason Fung. These are people who stick to the core of what we can influence, what we can change in our life to make it much better. And they don't go down a hole into things that may be really important until they have data.
It's from aliens. I've seen them.
Diet is going to get you 90% of the way there. People say when they go onto the ketogenic diet, do I have to have grass-fed meat? It's so expensive. And I say, generally, if you get all the grains out of your diet and all the sugar and starch out of your diet, and you just buy grain-fed beef, you're going to get probably 90% of the way there. And by spending twice the amount of money and getting grass-fed beef, maybe you might get another 9% of the way there. Just moving to a diet high in fatty meats and low in grains and sugars and starches is going to do most of the heavy lifting in improving your health.
Well, that's a great point. And my supporter as well, David, he's a very, very, he's a frighteningly smart guy, to be quite honest. I've never come across anyone like him. But the way he sees it is low carb, low sugars, low vegetable oils is it's 80% of it. So why not, when we're dealing with millions of people who are confused, stick to the simplicity of low carb, no vegetable oils, low sugars, and not fight the battle of you need to eat loads of fat, because then you're picking a scrap with the orthodoxy. So if we're clever about it, we want to let as many people know the main important thing, stick to just those core messages. Now, the meat, the grass-fed, because it's got better balance of fatty acids and more omega-3, I'm not so sure, because as Peter Ballestet has said, in beef, there's so low poly that really the ratio doesn't matter so much.
Right. It's the absolute risk.
Yeah, exactly. It's analogous. But I do wonder a little about the factory meats in America, and certainly David really has concerns, and we don't know the answer. the use of the hormones, they're illegal in Ireland.
Yeah, and Australia as well.
Yeah, what they use in America to fatten cattle up and all the hormones and stuff. If you were caught using those in Ireland, you'd lose your farm, literally.
Wow.
You'd get a 10 or 15 year ban and a huge fine.
Yeah.
Years ago, people were using what's actually legal in America. In Ireland, they were using it secretly, and they were terrified of getting caught because, it's over. So what is the effect of all those substances they're using? I'm not entirely sure. Ideally, you'd avoid them, but we're not sure. The other thing, though, is if you stay away from factory meat, but you eat lots of vegetables, well, in the vegetable world, they're using loads of sprays as well.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Glyphosate, yeah.
It's not just meat that you're not sure about adulteration. It's also the vegetables. So it's a tricky one.
And they're fertilizing those vegetables with the bones and the blood of the animals that they've raised in the factories. I mean, you can, like we discovered, you can't get away from it. But I think that it naturally happens after you go on a ketogenic diet, maybe you do some fasting, you lose weight, and you're like, well, that was easy. Wow. Where else can I go from here?
Right.
That's a logical next step. It's like, wow, I've saved all this money on my grocery bills. People tend to assume that it's expensive. Okay, it might be at first, but after you stop eating so much, your grocery bills go way down. It all works out. Then I think it's time to think about the ethical questions about animals and the beautiful way in which the cycle works when you let pasture-fed animals do their thing.
Absolutely. And it's our big problem is getting the bulk of people just aware of the massive benefits they can get from just the first steps, Carl, and Richard, what you said. That's the big deal. And then later you can hone it, or the enthusiasts can read and study and decide how they want to tweak it. The only thing I'd add in, even in the early steps, so you want to switch to low carb, low vegetable oils, sugars, and towards keto, certainly, if a lot of weight or diabetes. But the sun and exposure to UV and vitamin D and the potassium, magnesium, and maybe omega-3, you'd probably add that little batch of beneficial things, and sleep and stress. If possible.
I was just going to add sleep.
Yeah, if possible.
Yeah, sleep is very important.
And the thing might be they get a huge boost from going keto, for sure. But if you could just sprinkle in some of the other things too, the synergy, get an even bigger boost, get even more enthusiasm, it'd be nice. But if you add too many rules, then of course it gets all kind of complicated. And hold on a minute, what's this crap?
Yeah.
Right.
In the mornings, I try and get about 15 minutes of morning sun. In Australia, of course, Australia is the capital of skin cancer. And so everybody's paranoid about getting sun. But I try to get about 15 minutes early in the day. I don't try for sun exposure at midday. That would be crazy in Australia because it's so hot.
Powerful.
But certainly, 15 minutes when the sun is low. And you just have to, it's consistency is the thing, is just do it on a regular basis. And my vitamin D levels have come up nicely. So,
That's good.
From quite depleted to, I think I've got my numbers here somewhere. I think they're 180, but,
nanomoles. Oh, that's quite high.
We trust you.
Nanomoles, yeah. So
that's high.
So that's, so quite good. Yeah.
Excellent.
So what's next for you, Ivor? What are you working on now?
Oh, well, yes. Next is really, I have some meetings in Ireland on related topics in the coming weeks, but really, with the book coming out, I think 24th, 26th of February in the US, Victory Bell Publishers, Simon & Schuster, but available worldwide, we'll start ramping up activity around the book. And the first real step is on the 28th or 27th of February through to 2nd or 3rd of March, Breckenridge, Colorado. Dr. Jeffrey Gerber and Dr. Rod Taylor are doing the low-carb Breckenridge. And I'll be over there and I'll be speaking.
And so will we.
Oh, yes. Of course, you'll be there as well, yes.
Yeah, we'll have a party house. And
you're invited for dinner again.
Yeah, excellent venue. So it's getting bigger every year. The streaming is getting thousands of people signing up at a very reasonable price of $50. You have no expense. Excellent. And you can go to all the talks for $50. So we'll bring boxes of books there. And then I know KetoCon I'm going to go to in June, and then Low Carb USA, I think it's July. And I'm going to start adding in more venues and also a lot of podcasts and interviews, and there's some media is going to be drawn in by the publisher. So in the next few months, mainly relating to book and beginning to research new material. And I have a plan to look at doing something in the video sphere later in the year. I'm not sure what yet.
Cool.
As in
Nice.
maybe low budget kind of movie around this, but details yet to be decided.
Awesome. Well, we're planning Keto Fest again this year. We'll have a Kickstarter up very soon, so we hope you... The tentative date is July 21st, that weekend.
Oh, yeah, and I'm not sure when Low Carb US... I'm always thinking of efficiencies, because for me to the US... You know, if 2 events are within...
And me too.
Of course, from Australia.
Yeah.
So, okay, so 20-something.
21st is the Saturday.
21st, right, okay, very good. I'll make a note of that.
Yeah.
That was super last year.
We can't commit to anything until we do the Kickstarter, of course, because, you know, everything that we do is sponsored by donations by our listeners. And so, and Keto Fest was no different. Last year we did the whole thing sort of sponsored by the people who bought tickets, you know, in advance before we had any speakers. All we said was we know a few people and they seem to like us, and they've promised if we can have a festival, they'll come along. And then people like yourself and Jeffrey were just very generous. You came to the event and did a wonderful job for us. And so
and God, we had fun.
It was great fun.
You're welcome. You're welcome back again. With no doubt.
Oh, thanks, guys. Yeah, no, it was great fun, because the conferences are all fine, but that was the real fun one, and that was the one I kind of really enjoyed, because it was a festival. You know, it wasn't all just nerdy conversations. It was nights out, plenty of wine and beer, you know, and just a festival feel. Summer in near New York. Perfect.
Yep.
So great. And same place pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, same exact place.
Same place.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same people, same restaurants, same movie theater.
All right, Ivor, it's been great talking to you. You keep in touch now.
Thanks a lot, Carl. Delighted now. Left it too long this time. And Richard, we'll catch up soon.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Ivor. I'll see you then.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Heard you say you're due for a little.
I always love talking to Ivor Cummins.
Yeah.
He's just the real deal.
He is.
Are you peckish?
Yes, I am actually. I think it's time for some
Recipes!
Play that funky music.
Recipes. I haven't done my Barry White in a while. Recipes.
So, what have you got for us, Carl?
Well, we're doing small plates this year, as everybody knows. And I don't think we're as organized as we thought we were going to be about, doing a separate nationality every month.
Yeah, we're now into February and we're still doing tapas.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know if I would call mine tapas, but it is a small plate. It's basically lamb lollipops, right? Lamb chops.
Okay.
And not just lamb chops, bacon-wrapped lamb chops. And not just bacon-wrapped lamb chops, deep-fried bacon-wrapped lamb chops.
Oh, yeah.
The looks of horror on people's faces when I tell them that I'm eating deep-fried bacon-wrapped lamb chops is amazing. And at the same time, they have no problem downing French fries, right?
Of course.
But French fries are fine, or maybe they're just so bad we don't think about them. But I don't know. When you say, hey, I had some deep-fried bacon-wrapped lamb chops for lunch, they look at you like you're going to die.
Yeah, you're going to die, boy.
So all you really have to do to lamb chops is salt them and wrap a piece of bacon around them and chuck them in the deep fryer. There really isn't anything more to it than that. The secret, however, is in the sauce.
Okay.
Yeah. So the lamb chops that I usually get a rack of lamb. And so these are the Frenched, small.
They're already Frenched? You don't French them yourself?
Yeah, no, I don't French them myself. Or I don't have to. I mean, I get them that way.
Right.
So I just cut them into individual bones. So they're probably 3/4 of an inch thick, something like that. Whatever they naturally turn out to be.
Space between a rib.
Yeah. And you take some really good, thick, fatty slab bacon and wrap a piece of bacon around a lamb chop. but you got to put a little salt and pepper on there first, right?
Yeah.
Because, yes, the bacon is salty, but you want to salt the meat.
Yeah, lamb likes salt.
Lamb loves salt. All right, so on to the sauce. And this is a dipping sauce or a pour-over-it sauce, whatever you like.
Mm-hmm.
It's to make this sauce, and I don't even know what you would call it. You take about 3/4 of a cup of extra virgin olive oil, crush 4 to 5 cloves of garlic. Mm-hmm. You want to chop some rosemary, so you get about 2 tablespoons.
Yeah, lamb likes garlic and rosemary. Mm.
And you want to chop up some fresh parsley leaf, maybe about 1/4 cup of that.
Okay.
And you're going to zest a lemon.
Ooh.
So take the zest of a whole lemon.
Yep.
And then you're going to put the juice of half a lemon right in there. And this really makes it pop, that lemon.
It sounds almost like a chimichurri sauce.
Almost like a chimichurri, yeah. Yeah.
With the rosemary, or there's a Cuban sauce with garlic and parsley and lemon called Mojo, which is also very similar as well. Also something you pour over meat.
Right.
This sounds great. Yeah. So go on.
So the only thing left is about a teaspoon of salt and some fresh cracked pepper. And of course, these are the basic ingredients. If you like it more lemony, you can add more lemon. I love the lemon juice. It just, and the zest, it makes it sing in your mouth. It's just so good. Yeah. And so, put a little one of these on a plate, put a dollop of that sauce on it with some of the good herbs in there and some lemon and lemon zest. And man, those things are awesome. When I get lamb lollipops at my local restaurant here that we went to, and we got them there, Tony's.
Yeah. Nice.
He puts a little arugula and lemon salad.
Right.
Arugula dressed with olive oil and lemon juice and salt. In the middle of the plate.
Arugula in Australia is called rocket.
Yeah, it's called rocket almost everywhere else but America, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. That's what I got.
So, that's awesome. Interesting thing you say about lemons. I love lemon zest because that's where the oil is in the lemons. And we've got a lemon tree out the back, and we have possums. Everywhere in Australia has possums. Mm-hmm. And the possums will eat the zest on the outside of the lemon, and they'll leave all of the juices inside because they're not fools. They go straight for the fat and avoid the carbs.
Yeah, that's right. That's where the oil is and the flavor, right?
It is.
So what you got, man? Oh, I know what you got. You've got churros.
I might have had churros, except
what?
Well,
you're killing me, Morris.
We've just interviewed Ivor, and Ivor's an Irishman, and I can't go without doing a recipe based on potatoes.
Okay.
But there's going to be no potatoes in this recipe. Okay. I promise next week is going to be the churros. Next week,
you said that last week, the week before, and the week before.
Churros with chocolate sauce. No, this time I'm going to make this. Now, this is a tapas recipe called patatas bravas.
Okay.
But I'm going to be making no patatas bravas.
Patatas bravas.
Patatas bravas. So the trick here is instead of using potatoes, I'm going to use red radishes.
Yeah. I noticed Brenda Zorn has been cooking and deep frying radishes like potatoes.
Yeah.
And they look great. I've never had them.
Yeah. So there's a number of different kinds of radishes you can get. The little red radishes are the traditional ones you probably have in America. We certainly have in Australia.
Yeah.
And this is a very Western European thing. But there are Asian radishes as well. You can get the daikon radish, which is it's like a really large carrot in shape. And you can grate those lengthwise and make noodles out of them, which is another option for zoodles. But anyway, so this recipe, it's going to be similar to that recipe I did with the chorizo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with a chorizo sausage, nice. 1 link of chorizo sausage, and this will feed 2 people comfortably. And the other ingredients are I'm going to get 1/4 cup of my smoked tomato sauce I made for that other recipe, which is basically I cut tomatoes, put them in a hot smoker, and then blend them up, and then store them as ice cubes. So this is like it's smoked tomato paste that I can pull out of the freezer anytime I want. But the recipe's on our blog, so you can easily make that. You don't need a smoker; you can do it in an oven if you want. I'm also going to use 4 red radishes. And I'm going to use about a tablespoon of dry red wine to deglaze the pan. So I start off with, I'm going to slice this chorizo into battens, and then I'm going to dice them into 1 centimetre chunks. Very similar to last time.
What's a batten?
So a batten, when you slice a a piece of produce into long matchsticks.
Okay.
That's called a batten.
Okay.
And then when you then cut that vertically into little cubes, that's your dice. So if you have a piece of produce like a
celery,
a bell pepper,
for example,
capsicum or whatever.
Yeah.
So you're going to cut a plate is first.
Yep.
So if you have a bell pepper, you cut one cheek of the bell pepper off. That's called a plate. And then when you slice that into long thin bits, that's called a batten. And when you slice it further into small little cubes, that's called a dice. So we're actually ending up dicing these sausages. Now, I use a smoked chorizo. It's not the really hard one, so it doesn't end up with hard edges. It ends up with sort of soft edges. But
nice.
So what we're going to do is we're going to fry the chorizo, and a lot of the fat from the chorizo is going to render out. So we're going to, once the chorizo has turned golden brown, we take the meat out of the pan, we leave the fat in there, and now what we're going to do is we're going to put some diced radishes, again, a 1 centimetre dice, into that pan of chorizo oil. If the pan's a little bit dry, add a little bit of lard or something just to give it a little bit more zhuzh. And then so we're going to fry the radishes in the rendered out chorizo oil. And so on the plate, on the bowl, we're going to start off with the chorizo on the bottom of the bowl, and then we're going to put these radishes that have been fried in chorizo oil over the top of that. And then once I've taken the radishes out of the pan, I end up with a pan with a lot of fond on the bottom of the pan. That's sort of the crispy, crusty bits on the bottom of the pan that have got little bits of chorizo, little bits of chorizo oil, and little bits of radish have all sort of caramelized. I deglaze the pan by putting in a tablespoon of red wine.
Yeah.
And what that does is that pulls all of that tasty fond off the bottom of the pan into your sauce. And then I add a little bit of the tomato sauce, a quarter of a cup of tomato sauce, and I reduce it a little bit until it's a nice thick sauce.
Nice.
And then I pour that over the no patatas bravas.
Nice.
So that's my dish for the day. That's my tapas for the day.
Nicely done.
And I promise next week at churros con chocolate.
Yeah, you better. We got some angry churros people out there. Well, that's a show. It was a great show, and thanks to Ivor Cummins for coming back and hanging with us. We had a great time.
Always a pleasure. So, of course, if you have anything you want to tell us, something we said wrong, something you don't agree with, some more research you found to support or refute anything that we've said, send it by email to dudes@2ketodudes.com or post it on our website.
And you can follow us on Twitter at 2ketodudes, on Instagram at 2ketodudes, and make sure to use the hashtag 2ketodudes.
And, of course, if you want to join the free ketogenic forum, it's forum.2keto.com.
And if useless swag is your fancy, T-shirts, coffee mugs, and other junk with witty keto sayings on them, head over to gear.2keto.com.
And if you want a shot at getting some of that swag for free, join the 2 Keto Dudes fan club. You'll be eligible to win something in every show. Go to fanclub.2keto.com.
And if you feel like supporting our podcasts and our forums, think about making a pledge on our Patreon page at patreon.2keto.com.
Or just hit the donate button on our website at www.2ketodudes.com, or just go to donate.2keto.com.
You can also see all of our podcasts and other videos on YouTube at youtube.2keto.com.
And if you haven't already, go leave us a review on iTunes. That's how new people get to know about what we do.
2 Keto Dudes is brought to you by 2 Keto LLC, who strives to support the low-carb community with podcasts and other publications. Well, buddy, keep calm and keto on.
Yeah, keep calm and keto on, Carl.
All right, we'll see you next time on 2 Keto Dudes.